Hello and welcome back everyone, we're of course back, and today, as you can see, we're back on TRAILMAKERS finally. It has been a very long time, but we're finally back, and today I have a question for you. Have you ever been making a jet or a plane or anything in this game and wondered how to make it go faster? You know, just the speed was just not enough for you. Well, of course you have, that's why you clicked on the video. But today I'm going to be showing you exactly how to make your planes go from this, you know, topping out around 592, 593, around there, up to this, going upwards of 3,000 miles per hour, easily. Now, as much as I do love this jet, which, by the way, if you'd like to try it out for yourself, or even look at it for more examples on how to do the tricks and tips that I'm going to tell you about in this video, make sure to check it out on the TRAILMAKERS workshop. It's called the Speedy Penguin, and it's really fun to fly if you'd like to fly it yourself. But, as much as I do love this jet, I'm going to start fresh to show just exactly how to do these examples in this video. So, without further ado, let's make a jet. Okay, so here's the jet I ended up making for the example. I was going to show a bit more of the building process, but I got kind of carried away, to be honest with you, and before I realized I was done with the jet. But building the main part is not the important part. Now, upgrading it is what's important. So, as you may have seen there, this thing's not that fast. It tops out around 200 miles an hour, which is definitely not bad, but it's not what you want. Now, there are going to be four main things that we're going to do to make our jet faster. First off, the simplest thing, you're going to just want to make sure you have only good aerodynamics. Now, some of these aren't perfect, like these kind of darker green ones, but for the most part, these are all good. That's good news. Now, we can turn that off just to get that out of the way, and the next thing is a very simple one, but if you have a jet that's like this, where it's kind of thicker in the belly, you know, then you're going to want to take out a lot of that, and you can actually replace it with more engines, obviously, which, believe it or not, is going to make your jet a whole lot faster. So the simplest and most effective way to do that, now at least, is to just take a lot of these space thrusters and put something like grid blocks, or if you care a bit more about looks, you can go just with the basic blocks, but if you're only looking for speed, grid blocks are going to be your best friend because they're lighter by a lot. And so then you just kind of want to add more and more of these until your plane's pretty much just fully done, or until you've added engines to the whole plane, and then you'll be set. So as you can see here, everything's all connected again. We've got a ton of these space thrusters in the middle of the jet, and when I try to take off, you'll see it's already, before even taking off, up to 200, which is so much faster than it was before. That was where it topped out, as I said. Now we're getting up to 350. That's solid. This is, you know, this is small fighter jet territory in terms of speed in TRAILMAKERS. This is pretty good. But what if we want it to be even faster? So the next thing we're going to do if we want to make the jet even faster is we're going to zero drag it, which essentially means all of these aerodynamics don't mean a single thing anymore. So for all the game cares, we could be removing any aerodynamics and it still wouldn't matter because we're just going to take them away. We're going to make it so there's zero drag in front of the jet, which is going to make it accelerate so much faster and have so much higher of a top speed that it's going to be insane. So you may be wondering now, how do you zero drag it? Well, the first step is you're going to need some detachable blocks. These are step one. Now from here, it's a very simple task. Basically, you just want to cover every single aerodynamic on the build. This also works for cars or whatever else, but we're using it for a plane right now, obviously. So, you want to cover every single aerodynamic, as I said, all of the arrows, any front-facing spaces, even if you do something like a shield, which, let me find that. Even if you do something like a shield, that'll still have aerodynamics, so you want to cover that too. You want to cover every single thing that you can. Now, the best way to do this in my book is to just simply get a lot of these grid blocks, and you can put them against the build, obviously, and if you have wings like this where it's using wedges, it's not going to connect, so you won't have an issue with that. That's what we're looking for. We don't want anything connecting because basically the way this works is we're detaching all of this. And then everything that these blocks are in front of just has no drag anymore. So, you need to make sure, A, that you're covering every aerodynamic once again, and B, that none of it's actually connected to the build. So, as you'll see right there, if I move the detachable block, none of it's connected. That's what we want. Okay, so this is effectively what we want the build to look like. We want it to have all of the grid blocks in front of everything, And then I generally start with the front, as you can see, and then you have a couple of options for how you can do the back. Either you can start new detachable blocks back here, or the way that I generally do it is I just kind of go like that. It's simple, it's easy, could be better obviously, but on a smaller build it's not really going to matter if you use some of the complexity to do that, so it's just easier. And then you can connect the detachable blocks to some logic so that as soon as you pop the build into existence, it'll just kind of all go away without you having to press a button or anything. Now you may be wondering what you could do for an area like this where it's kind of cramped and where it might have a higher risk of being connected to something without you wanting it to be. This isn't a great example of that, but if you ever do have to worry about that, actually this is a good example of that right here. My suggestion would be one of two things. Either A, you can say we had a block there, you can always take an aerodynamic piece and put a wedge there, and that will cover this up while not being connected to the top there, or the other side. Whereas if you just used another grid block, obviously that would get connected and then you'd have a whole mess of issues. Now the second option for this kind of situation is to use the tubes. Now, you could just go and build a tube going along like that, but in most cases that's going to just connect to the other side of the build, so you got to be very aware of the other tube pieces. For example, you can use the tube elbow and not be connected to anything at all. Okay, so now we should have a fully successfully zero-dragged jet. Now, the last step to doing this is you need to go into the settings to configure the detachable blocks, and you want to make sure that you press Make Scrap. Otherwise, you're just going to be covered in random blocks that won't come off. Now, when you start your plane up, you just got to press the button to get rid of the blocks, or, once again, you can have some logic tied into it, that's up to you. And, as you'll see, this thing's going even faster now. And it's actually already breaking the speed of sound and going 1,000 miles an hour, and we haven't even done the last step yet. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you're going at these high speeds, if you're using any of the control surfaces that are based on actually, using the wind and all that, so for example, ailerons for your pitch, you're gonna go crazy fast with your turning when you're going super high speed, and really slow with your turning when you're going in slow speed. So, if you're making a jet that's meant to go extremely fast, I would suggest using more gyro controls than anything, so that you don't have that. If you want a dogfighting plane that can turn on a dime while going 1,000 miles an hour, then this is definitely how to do it. But if you want to fly stable, then gyros are your friend. Okay, so there is one last thing that I'm going to be talking about today for how to make your plane go even faster, and that's going to involve basically taking the bottom of your plane, or if you have no bottom to your plane and your plane just kind of looks like this from the bottom, then you can still make it work, but it's a bit harder to do, and I'm not going to be showing you how to do that right now, because it's easy to figure out, but it's annoying to do. Anyway, though, once you have the bottom of your plane down like this, if it's a smaller plane like this, you may have to add some stuff like flat connectors to keep everything connected, which, by the way, for the zero dragging, if you do have flat connectors, these do not have an aerodynamic profile, so you don't have to zero drag these. Now, once you have the bottom of your plane moved out of the way and just kind of down, you're going to be wanting to look for somewhere to place your pistons. And you want your pistons to be placed so that if they're placed on or against the bottom of your plane, it'll put it back flush where it's supposed to go. So for example, if I was to just put them there and, not really care, just kind of throw it together like that, then when I bring this back together, it's not gonna go where it's supposed to go. So you may be thinking, okay, what do you do then? Well, in this specific case, I'm going to take these 4 long wedges, and I'm going to switch them with 3 long wedges, and then I'm simply just going to flip the pistons around, and I'm going to make sure that they have the connection facing the bottom of the plane, and then I'm going to move the bottom of the plane into them like that. So, I'm going to turn up the speed on these things just so you can see it quicker. So, what you'll see now is when I bring this back up, it'll go flush back to where it used to be. just like that. So, now that we have that all set, the next step is to just basically put a literal ton more of the space engines on here. Now, what I would even suggest doing is trying to make it too wide, if your plane can handle it. Which this one I think should be able to, but it might look a bit weird after we're done. But, obviously we're not just going for looks here, this is for speed and speed alone. So you're gonna fill this bottom platform of the plane with as many engines or thrusters as you can, and then you're gonna want to zero drag this as well, which should not take too long. Now, once again, for this part, as I said, if I was to just put another grid block here, it would connect and cause issues. So what I'm gonna do instead is I'm gonna take one of these wedge blocks, and I'm just going to flip it so that it's not connected. As for these aerodynamics and what I'm gonna do there, instead of putting grid blocks and connecting it and making a mess, I'm just simply going to do this. Now, for the pistons, you can keep these on manual control, but I would suggest just simply putting them to start position 0, and then you won't have to do any of this yourself. Now, finally, you'll be able to go at a stupidly... That's not supposed to happen. Okay, so now sometimes the issue with doing this engine stacking glitch is sometimes it won't fully work. So, what you're gonna want to do is basically just trial and error. Simple as that. Also, I did just realize that I've got some red aerodynamics here now, which I need to go ahead and fix. Okay, I finally got it to work. Once again, just kind of trial and error, you know, mess around with various things, move certain blocks. For me, I basically just had to put a 1-second delay on the pistons, and then I used some logic to make sure that the zero dragging would happen immediately, so that all of this would be out of the way before the pistons go up, and that seemed to be what helped it. Now, make sure to leave a comment saying how fast you think this is gonna go, and let's see if you're right. So first off, reached 1,000 miles an hour super easily. No trouble there. We're getting to 2,000. This thing might be able to reach 3,000 with this easy, quick setup. Let's see. We're almost there. Come on. Okay, I am genuinely surprised by that. This extremely quick, easy to make jet just went over 3,000 miles an hour. That is over Mach 4, faster than any real-life jet that actually flew for a purpose and was known about. So, if you're starting to make jets in Trailmakers and you're finding that they're just not quite fast enough for your liking, this is what you gotta do. Anyway, I am going to be adding this to the Trailmakers workshop as well, but I'm actually going to wait a bit, and if any of you guys have any ideas for what I should name it on the Trailmakers workshop, make sure to let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see if there's any that I like, and I'll go off of that. Anyway, make sure to subscribe for more Trailmakers videos, shorts, and also other games too, and make sure to leave a like on the video. It helps out a ton, and it also helps the video to get seen by more people who might need to find out how to make their jets faster. And once again, make sure to leave a comment if you have any ideas for what to name this jet, and maybe I'll pick your idea, who knows? Anyway, thank you all for watching, till next time everyone, and goodbye.